Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Coaching Call podcast. On this podcast, we'll cover various types of coaching by trainers in sports, martial arts, fitness, and business. We'll discuss each coach's methods to getting the most out of their respective athletes or clients and how they attempt to change the platform in which they coach. Join us on a fun adventure as we discuss unique coaching styles. Coaching is a universal part of how we get others to get something done. Join your host, Raphael, and his guests on this unique journey in coaching.
Hi, I'm Sifu Raphael, and this is the Coaching Call podcast. If you enjoy this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. This episode was made possible by listeners like you. Amrit, how are you? Welcome to Coaching Call. Thank you so much for joining me today.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I'm excited to talk to you. We've had several conversations already, and you have been doing yoga for a very, very long time. And the beauty of yoga, from what I've done yoga myself for many years, is that it really teaches us how to focus on the most important person, right? Us. So before we get into your teachings and how you help your clients and so forth, would you mind taking us back? I mean, back when you were a little guy running around. Where'd you grow up? Who influenced you when you were 5, 6, 7, 8? And then we'll go further up the line that way. Would you mind?
Yeah, no, totally. So for me, it was an interesting time when I grew up, because I can still very distinctly remember the difference between the first 10, 11 years and then when I got older. Because when I was young, I was very much connected to my identity, to the magic in life, to energy, to all these very spiritual things. And people who influenced me the most were my mom and my grandma, who I both spent a lot of time with. And so it was a really, soft and sweet time in that way. And then I remember very distinctly, like, being on a trip with my dad. And my dad was this big, tall, tough guy who, was very sensitive and very emotional himself, but never in his life got to live that. He was born in 1936 in Germany, which was right at the beginning of the war. So a lot of his childhood was tough. He needed to toughen up. He couldn't show his sweet emotional side. And so he turned into this tough guy. And this is what I learned when I was 11, like, there was this moment where I was upset about something and was crying, and he was like, "Oh, come on, boys don't cry, toughen up." And so I decided with 11 to toughen up. And it was very interesting because I had this super high level of sensitivity and softness and kindness and emotion and strong feelings. And all that really didn't fit into the tough guy persona. And I think, we're like around the same age. So what was the big heroes on TV were Rambo and James Bond. So I kind of became this mix between Rambo and James Bond. That was my 11-year-old logic. So I was this tough guy. And I lived like that for a long time. I think almost till I was 20. And in the beginning was kind of cool, because I was not this soft, emotional, weak in apprentices person, right? Where suddenly I could say, like, "Oh yeah, I don't feel any pain. I don't have any feelings. I don't care about any emotions."
Wow.
But you know how that goes. When you put on the armor, everything else goes away too, right? You don't feel anything anymore. You're not in contact with yourself. You're not in contact with others. And yeah, that was rough. And when I started with yoga and meditation, I kind of got a little glimpse into that softness and into that sensitivity of mine. And it took me many, many years to lay down the armor. I think I'm still in the process. I'm almost 50 now. And I'm still feeling like, oh, there is another layer of armor I can lay down and become more how I already was when I was 5, 6, 7.
Mm. So you were a tough guy back in the day.
Yeah, oh yeah.
What motivated you to even do yoga? Because hey, you know what? Yoga's for weaker people, right? That's what people think.
Oh
Yoga's
yeah,
for
yeah.
women only, right?
Exactly, totally. Yeah, yeah. It was
So
rough.
so how did this rough guy, Rambo type guy, James Bond guy, say, you know what? I'm gonna do yoga. What
Oh, it's
was the
actually
attraction?
for me, what allowed me to soften up and get a little bit in touch with that magic and that spirituality in my life was when I started to smoke weed.
Mm,
Because now suddenly, when being stoned on weed, I was able to connect, and I was feeling more things, and I was experiencing my body in a way I hadn't known was possible. And then with 15 or something like that, I thought like, oh my God, I got it figured out. I just have to smoke weed all day.
oh gosh.
So I did for many years, and I ended up, like if you ever done that, where you smoke weed from morning till evening. The downside of that is you're stoned all the time, and nothing changes, and you're stuck in this little, getting stoned bubble. And so that's what allowed me to crack the door open towards the yoga and to go to a class. A friend of mine had organized something. He had found this yoga teacher who had helped him with some health condition. And he was like, oh my God, everybody should do yoga. And so he organized this class for like 20 of us, tough guys. And so we all went and we did yoga. And I think 18 of them dropped out. But I was one of the ones who stuck with it. And I was like, there is something in there. There's like, oh my God, I'm feeling the same feeling I get from the weed without smoking.
Wow.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
So I stuck with it and I practiced and I went into it. And yeah, then that's kind of what started it all.
Huh. So I hope that all the parents who are listening to you speak should have their kids watch this part, right? Because it's like, see, yoga instead of weed, right? So I think you were sitting behind me in high school
Oh yeah, I probably was.
because the kid behind me in high school was high every day. He would walk in the morning and he would smell like marijuana the whole time. And I'm like, oh my God. And he would just like, and then he'd be all like drowsy and like all happy. He was happy, but then he would like fall asleep a lot.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
was like, but every day, all throughout high school, this kid, and I don't even know how he moved up in grade.
Oh,
Maybe
I
they
don't know
felt,
how I did either. It was really challenging.
I have no idea even how he did on tests. I think he cheated. But when we think about the guidance that some people don't have, you were guided by a friend in a positive way. Because if your friend, instead of saying, we're going to go do this positive thing, he said, hey, let's go get more high. Let's go do these other drugs. You may have gone as well, right? So
Oh yeah,
it's
the
the
other
path that we
18
take.
were saying that. So I went with them, but then, it
Right.
took me actually a couple of years to get out of that old pattern and the old habit, and really all the way till I decided to leave Germany and move to India. So
Mm.
I needed to get out of that friend group because it was too influential and I was too young.
So you grew up in Germany.
Yeah.
What 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 moment in time did you say India is the place for me to go to?
It was really out of a necessity where I knew I needed to get out. I mean, I had tried for a couple of years between the yoga and going back and forth with my friends and trying to, implement this new healthy lifestyle. And it was almost impossible because I
Mm.
always got sucked back in, if it was a party or if it was a birthday or was something. And it was always this pull back into the old patterns. And so for me, it was really like I needed to get out. And India was just one of the choices. And so I ended up there, and luckily there was a project going on which I could become part of. So there was a community, and there was all people who were practicing yoga and meditation, and they were not smoking weed and drinking alcohol. So it was super easy to not do
Right.
it myself.
So being around the right people was the best influence you could have had.
Yes, yes.
I always consider the people you hang around with the most are the ones that influence you, whether good or bad, right?
Oh yeah, very much.
So you went to India. Did you say I'm going to stay in India, or you were just going for this one particular project?
Oh, I was thinking I would go for 1 year and I would see how it goes and kind of go with whatever is coming. And then 1 year turned into 2, and then it turned into 3, and then it turned into 20. And so I ended up staying there for a long time.
Mm. What part of India did you go to?
We're up north in the Punjab in Amritsar, which is near the border to Pakistan. And so
Gotcha.
that's kind of where the Sikh religion came from. And I was interested in to learn more of what it means to be a Sikh, because I was inspired by the values. You know, for me,
Mm.
religion was never a thing. You know, like even though my mother was a teacher in primary school for religion, and we did talk about at home about it, and you know, I learned about Christianity, but it never really did it for me. You know, going to church, listening to the priest, and I never had this, oh my God, I want to be like that guy. You know, he's so
Mm.
amazing and so inspirational. It was more like, oh my God, that's the opposite of what I want to be. And so
Right.
for me, religion was not an inspirational thing. But then when I met the first Sikhs and I met the first people who were practicing yoga, I saw something in them. I saw this light. I saw this, you know, connectedness, the authentic aspect, this being in touch with the energetic and the spiritual realm. And I was like, oh, I want that. So I found out what they were doing, and they were sitting and meditating every day. And so I started practicing that.
Really cool. So what style of yoga? Did you even know there's different styles at the time, or you just went
I
for
had
whatever?
no clue. No, no, no. I started with Kundalini Yoga, and that was the first experience I had. And for many years, I only practiced Kundalini Yoga before I even like went to someone else's class. And it's like, oh, this is the other styles of yoga. It's so different from Kundalini Yoga.
Right,
And
right.
so I was already, you know, I had already advanced quite a bit in the field of Kundalini Yoga. I was training to become a teacher. I was practicing regularly. So when I compared it to the beginning of a Hatha class or an Ashtanga class or something, it was just not the same. And so the other yoga never had an attraction for me.
Mm. So what is it so different about the yoga that you were practicing compared to even Ashtanga? I love Ashtanga because it's really it's a very powerful yoga for me. And
Yeah.
that's the one that I did the most. What's the difference if you let's say we have somebody on the show who's never done yoga. What would be the attraction? What would it be like for them to even consider starting yoga?
What I liked about Kundalini Yoga was it was very doable for a beginner. It's very simple. The exercises are simple. The the things you have to do are very basic. And it has a lot to do with the power of your mind. I mean, we have exercises in there where you hold your arms out to the side and you hold them like, or whatever, you know, like there's a story in the Bible where Moses holds up his hands, right? And the armies keep winning while he's holding his hands up. So he holds them up all day. And so this kind of challenge to be in a meditation where I'm holding my arms up, and 2 minutes into it, I feel like starting to cry because it's hurting so bad. But then
Mm.
I'm able to do it for 30 minutes or for an hour. And I come out of this exercise and my entire being has changed, and I'm just like walking on cloud 7. And that's like such a powerful effect on the mind, where you can do whatever you set your mind to. And so that's what inspired me. So for me, yoga was always like kind of the preparation to go into these challenging meditations where I could just push myself to my limit and see, what can I do? And when I was able to do it, really come out the other side saying like, okay, what can life throw at me, which I'm not going to be able to do?
Yeah, yeah. It's powerful what you just said, and a lot of people don't realize that. Excuse me. When we try something and we feel pain, we quit. We quit. But the beauty only happens when we stick it out. We will discover something so profound in us when we go beyond the pain, which is what you did. You said holding your arms up for 2 minutes, you were in pain, right? Excruciating pain. But why did you hold them up?
For me, it was really, I wanted to know more about myself. And I was watching the other people doing it. And again, what I talked about earlier, the people who inspired me who had these big auras and who were really radiant and who I was like, ooh, I want to be like that. They were all holding their arms up and they were doing it for, half an hour, and they were not even flinching. And I was thinking like, oh my God. And then I looked around and I saw the people who put their arms down after 2 minutes. And they were the ones who are kind of, I don't know what the right words are, but I didn't want to be like them. I wanted to be like the people who were able to do it. And so I kind of just challenged myself, and I went into it, and I came out the other side transformed.
I'll help you what you were trying to say. You were trying to say they were empowered. The ones that held their arms up were empowered, and the other ones were not.
Oh yeah,
They
I like that.
they didn't feel the strength that they could have had. Because, like I said, people quit too early. It's like the stories that you hear of people digging for gold, right? And they're only 3 feet apart from the gold. And they go, oh, this is too tough. And they leave. And then somebody else goes, wait a minute, you were almost there. And they come and they get the gold.
Yeah.
So you got the gold. You went past the 2 minutes. At what point during that time that you realize, wait a minute, this is not so bad? Was it 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15?
I mean, there was a couple times where it did change after 10 minutes and it started to get a little better, especially the ones where I didn't move too much.
Right.
But I also been in some meditations which took an hour and it got better after 59 minutes and 30 seconds. And I was thinking, oh my God, I had to like suffer for the entire time. This is so messed up. But the benefit always came at the end. And the benefit came from reaching the peak, like making it, completing the journey. And that's really what got me to stick with it. And that's what inspired me to show up and inspired me to do it again. It's very similar to the ice bath challenge, which I think is more common and a lot of people know about it. Like no one wants to go into a bathtub with ice cubes in it. And then when you go into it, you're like, oh, I was right. I did not want to go into this thing. It feels horrible. But then when you can make it through those first 2 minutes and you come out, you feel amazing. And your body is radiant and you're like thinking like, oh my God, this is how I can feel after applying myself for 2 minutes. It's insane.
Yeah, it is. Actually, I take freezing showers every morning.
Oh yeah,
and I've been
I do
doing
too.
it
I love it.
for many, many years now. And for me, it's not, if I don't have a cold shower, I'm like, oh, am I missing something? And so sometimes when I travel around the country and I do, different speeches and so forth, and I go to a hotel and I put on the cold and I'm like, this isn't cold.
Yeah, in LA or something, huh?
Yeah,
Where you're
it's
like,
not
when is the
cold.
cold water coming out?
Yeah, it's not cold. What's going on? So a lot of times, for me, it's very different when I go to a hotel room. Even in California, I put on the heat in the
Mm.
room. I don't put on the air conditioning. Obviously, I'm by myself because anybody else would like think I'm nuts. So I come into the room and I put the heat on. And so for me, it's that change in the environment. And then I go take a nice cold shower. It's amazing. But one of the things that really inspires me in talking to you is that understanding the realm of possibility only happens when we dig deep.
Yes.
Only happens when we dig deep. So many people go to a certain point, and we all have different points, right?
Yeah.
Every one of us. Some people may have felt what you felt at 59 and a half minutes, might have felt it at 32 minutes. Someone may have had to do it for 70 minutes to feel what you do. So some people, they don't know what that point is and they expect it because you received it at 59 and 30 seconds. So if I go into it, I'm going to go, well, I'm going to feel it at 59 and 30 seconds, and I don't get that feeling. And I'm going to go, well, I don't know what he's talking about. But
Or if you
everybody,
hold your arms up for an hour, you're gonna get something out of that, you know.
yeah, but maybe not what you got.
Yeah, that's true.
So my time may be, 62 minutes,
Yeah.
but we don't allow ourselves to feel it for ourselves. Sometimes we do what other people have done and we expect the same results, but they're not because the results are individual, right?
Yes, very much.
So, what was it like for you that first time when you held your arms up and you saw other people dropping their arms? I'm sure some people maybe drop their arms at 6 minutes or 8 minutes.
Oh yeah, yeah, quite a bit.
What was it like, and what revelation did you truly feel when you succeeded at that point?
For me, I had a physical experience of everything I want to do is possible. And that was like such a breakthrough where I was thinking like, oh my God, now it makes total sense how Moses held his arms up for 12 hours. He knew that was possible. He knew that would inspire his armies. And so he was like, okay, I'm doing this. This is not for me. And so
Right.
it was like a transcending into this, oh my God, I can create this, but it's only possible if I go past my ego and I go past my, oh, I'm doing this for me, like suddenly it was about something bigger and something more expanded. So that was a really cool thing for me.
Yeah. I mean, most people go, whoa, I can't even hold my arms up for a minute. they start feeling it. And
Well,
when
the
we
thing
talk,
is, they all can.
yeah, of course
Their
they can.
mind is what limits them. That's the thing. It's a little bit like, we all heard these stories of a mother who lifted a burning car because she saw a child under it and she pushed the car out of the way. Where you're like, how's this possible? How can this little skinny woman pick up an entire car? But
Mm,
that is what our human bodies are capable of when this little mental box up here is not there saying like, no, you can't do that.
right. Yeah. We put those limitations on ourselves constantly, right?
Yeah, yeah. And
One of the
subconsciously, that's the scary thing. Because when we limit ourselves consciously, it is much easier to overcome. But when you come to the point of saying like, yeah, I believe you, but I can't do it, then it's not possible. Then you can't do it.
yeah.
And so when you can break through that subconscious limitation and you can prove to yourself that you have the ability. And this can work through many other ways, right? The what I like about this Kundalini yoga approach with holding your arms up in a certain way, you're not going to break anything. You're not going to kill yourself. You're not going to, your muscles not going to rip off. If you go for a marathon and you've never been running before, that might be dangerous. If you try to pick up cars without having the proper preparation, you might rip something off in your body, right? But this is what I love so much about the approach in Kundalini Yoga. It's always about that challenge. It's always about like, okay, let's make it a little hard and let's see what you can do with it.
To understand that we are limitless. With listen, you, like you said, you can't lift up a car every day, right, without getting hurt, right? But if you do it in a moment where you're saving someone's life, like a child, and you don't think about it, and it's not the car that's in the way, it's getting to the child that's the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
So lifting our arms up in a posture, like you said, it's not going to hurt us. And I've said, I do this all the time, because I've done so many different variations. I also do Qigong and Heigong. So sometimes we'll hold our arms in front of us, and people, their arms are like they're shaking, and it's kind of interesting to me. So I say to them, don't worry. If your arm falls off, I have crazy glue. And they're like, what? And they try to put their arms on that. I said, no, you can do better. You can keep it up. So don't limit yourself. Don't allow other people not to, or don't let them put limitations on you. And Angel, thank you for so much. He says adrenaline. Absolutely. We do have that adrenaline in all of us, but we need to be able to use it at the right time, right? Absolutely. We do limit ourselves, Angel. Thank you for sharing and joining us today. So, Amrit, you were born in Germany.
Yes.
Were your parents German or not?
My parents were German, and I grew up normal German kid.
Mm. And was your last name Singh all along, or is that
No.
you
My
changed
last
it?
name is Reinsch, and my original name was Alexander. And I took on the name Amrit Singh as my spiritual name to kind of remind me that I'm stepping out of this beautiful first 20 years of my life where I was Alexander and I identified as that, into this new version of myself where I wanted to identify as a new version. And I think a lot of cultures carry this tradition of taking on a new name when you're stepping into a new part of your identity. And so it was very powerful for me.
Mm. And then we spoke, and you're no longer in India. You're not in Germany, but you've traveled, and you're now in a beautiful, and you talked to me earlier, paradise. Tell
Yes.
me what got you there. What was the steps, and why did you even leave India after 20 years?
I left India because I'd been there for such a long time. And my wife and I were very happy there. When the kids were little, it was a very contained environment. They got to grow up there. And then we got to the point where I said, okay, we're in our 40s now. This is either we're staying here another 20 years or we make a jump and start something new somewhere else. And so we both individually felt that it was the time to start new. And we didn't even know where we wanted to go. So we just left India and we're like, okay, let's go to Germany. And so we arrived there and we stayed in my mom's house, and it was very convenient. And we're like, maybe we just stay here for a year just to have an experience for the kids to learn some German. And then COVID happened. And you know how the Germans are, we take things seriously. So we took COVID lockdown seriously. So there was nothing. There was no friends. There was no connection. There was no going out. It was, for me personally, actually, I didn't mind it so much, but my Mexican wife almost died under pressure during COVID because she's like, oh my God, I'm not seeing people. What's happening? And so when the numbers went up again, when was that? In the end of 22, we were just like, this is it. We're getting out of here and we're moving to Mexico. And the Mexicans are much more relaxed around COVID lockdown restrictions, as you might imagine. And there's parties happening and people go out and you can be out in the nature every day. And it's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. So how'd you meet your Mexican wife? Because was it at a retreat? Was it doing yoga?
Oh, it
And
was in the yoga world. I actually met her in the United States because we would go for this big yoga event, like a summer solstice celebration every year, and there would up to 3,000 people would show up for that. And it was our entire worldwide yoga community. And she had grown up in this field. Her parents started practicing Kundalini Yoga when she was young. And so for her, Kundalini Yoga was always part of her life in some shape or another.
nice, nice. So when we think about connecting, so many times we don't necessarily connect. And I love the fact that you talked about 3,000 people connecting. That had to be a beautiful experience because when we think about being around like-minded people who are doing something positive, who understand where you are and maybe even can help you. I want to also talk about how you're helping people. And when you get a chance in the private chat, put in your links so I can put them across the screen and people can follow you and maybe become some clients too. When we think about the connections, how are you facilitating that for people nowadays?
Well, my favorite way these days to connect with people is through TikTok. And I'm one of the people in the I love TikTok camp, and there's the other camp too of people who hate TikTok.
Right.
Apparently, there's no one in the middle who's just kind of saying, oh, whatever, TikTok. But I like TikTok and that connection so much because it's so authentic, it's so real. It's such a great way of sharing short form content. And I reach new people every day, and I really, really enjoy that.
It's very interesting. I went on TikTok and I put some videos up. I work out every day and I put my videos up. And then I said, oh, it's too much. I'm wasting too much time. I got off of it. And then my girlfriend says, hey, did you see this on TikTok? I'm like, no, I'm not on TikTok. So I go back on TikTok so I can see what she sends me. And then I get off TikTok. So currently I'm off, but now you're telling me I should go on there because it's more authentic, right? Because you make connections that way.
Yeah, and I just enjoy it a lot, and it's really fun. So if anyone wants to know more about me, that's probably the first place where I would send you to just, like 5 years ago, you would go to someone's website and you see all the pretty colors and the pretty photos and the pretty edited text. And then you get like the, kind of the fake version of whatever, because we're all faking it to a degree. But the thing is, what I love about the TikTok thing is just there's not a lot of space to fake it. It's just all real. And like you said, if you want to make it look really good, you spend 5-6 hours a day editing videos, which I'm not interested in because I want to connect with people. Right. So I just put stuff up the way it is. And then that has to be okay. And so you see the little and the, funny this and that. And it's perfectly okay on TikTok. And people appreciate it.
Yeah. Everybody loves the real thing nowadays. There's so much fake stuff out there. If you go to Instagram, for example, there's so many fake models. People who are like, all they do all day long is make videos so they can post them. Instead of saying, hey, you know what, this is happening right now. Check this out. Boom, I had a thought, talk on it. So I like the uniqueness of it.
Yeah.
What is your handle on TikTok?
It's super easy to find me. You can just type in Amrit Singh, and I don't think you even need my last name because I've been so active. There's a lot of my stuff on there.
All right. I'll have to look you up because, like I said, I was off of it. Now I'm going to go back. I'm going to look up your stuff. I'll start following you. And for me, every day I post videos and it's 5 minutes. I do
Yeah.
5 minutes straight workout, but I know TikTok doesn't allow that long, but
No, it does now. 10
it
minutes.
does. See, now I have a reason to go to it. So, because I wanted to share with people that they don't have to live a sedentary lifestyle, that they can do something to help themselves. That no more excuses. Listen, we all have 5 minutes, right? How many people go to a Starbucks or store and they wait online for 5 minutes? And they're waiting for something that's not necessarily healthy for them. Or they go get donuts, right? And they wait online for donuts or the drive-through. Why don't you do something for 5 minutes that's going to help you be healthy and live a long life, right? So
I know, but then you're taking that good excuse away. So don't do that. That was working so well.
but hey, you know what? Spend 5 minutes with me, work out. Spend a couple of minutes with Amrit and get inspired. What is your go-to move, if you will, when you feel overwhelmed? Or do you even feel overwhelmed nowadays?
Oh, I do. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course. I'm married. I do feel overwhelmed sometimes, and I
I'm
have
married. That's
learned that.
funny.
Yeah, I've learned that honestly, blaming it on my wife and just saying if she could just be better, my life would be better is really not what helps and what works. And so I do take responsibility when I get irritated. And what I find is the reason I have practiced meditation for 30 years is for those moments. It's when I'm saying, okay, let's see if I can connect to this meditative, calm space inside of me that I connected with in the morning. And it was super easy and, like was very, very quick to get there. Now let's see if I can do it when I'm upset and I'm frustrated and I'm angry. And so those are the challenges in my life.
No, that's incredible. You know, at the age of 18, I clicked. I clicked and I forgave everybody who ever hurt me. Literally. Full forgiveness. I didn't have to tell them I forgave them. I just did in my heart.
That's amazing.
And from that day on, I've never been angry. I mean, listen, if somebody comes in and start yelling at me because maybe I did the wrong thing. I'm like, okay, I did the wrong thing. I'm going to be responsible for it. I'm going to apologize. I'm going to do something to make it better. But why am I going to waste my energy on anger? Let me not waste, but let me use my energy on solving this problem or
Mhm.
helping this person. So a lot of times for me, the way I look at it is if somebody comes in, they're very, very angry, that's on them. I don't have to take on that persona myself. And that happened to me at age 18. And anybody who knows me, they go, I've never seen Raphael angry. He'll get upset. He'll be maybe disappointed in what somebody did, but he doesn't carry it with him. He doesn't start yelling. He doesn't throw things. So many people get angry and they throw things. I used to work for a man, right? And the only reason I went to work for this man is because he was gifted and I wanted to learn his craft. And it was woodworking. I have a wood shop now. But that time I was his apprentice and he said to me, I've been doing this for 50 years and blah, blah, blah. And he would curse at me and literally curse at me like I was nobody. And I would
Wow.
go, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to take all that negativity. I'm going to turn it and say, okay, show me the next thing I need to learn because that's how I saw it, right? You can curse me out all you want, but if you're going to give me something of value, I'll let you. It's no big deal. I never talked back to him. I didn't say anything. I was already an adult when this happened. And he would get so angry at himself, even at himself, that he would take the tools and slam them on the floor, and then he wouldn't have that tool to use.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm like, what are you doing? You're breaking your own tools. Now you got to go buy another tool. Not too bright. But I never said anything. I was just like, okay, he's having a temper tantrum like a 2-year-old,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that was him. But he taught me so much about fine woodworking that eventually no project will leave the shop without my inspection of it, because he saw that I had the detail and the calmness to make sure that every piece went out perfectly. And there's nothing that's perfect in the world, but as close to it, it was my eyes and my feel and my hands that would have to see. He goes, nothing leaves the shop without Raphael inspecting it. I was like, wow, out of nowhere one day. I was like, okay, so it paid off.
Yeah.
He
That's
taught me
amazing.
so much.
Now, and I just saw that comment on the bottom, to not take things personal. And I
Yeah.
think it's so powerful because we all tend to take things personal because obviously we experience the world in this very personal way, right? I mean, everything we experience is personal.
Yeah.
Everything a person says to us is personal because it's in our world. And so to make this mental bridge and be like, oh, that is the other person in their world going through their process, and now saying something which is a reflection of where they're at,
Yeah.
is powerful. And it's powerful to understand the concept mentally, but then also comes the point where you need to understand it in your body, and you need to understand it physically, and you need to, and I think that's what you did with 18 when you started forgiving people, and you had your exercise routine, and you had that balance in your life where that started to become possible.
Oh, yeah. One of the things that I call it having my power, right? So let's say you were angry at me and you come and you're yelling at me and cursing me out. If I mirror your actions, if I curse, if I yell, if I get heated up, it's just two crazy people going doing this, right? What did I do the minute I opened my mouth to react to you? I gave you my power away. I gave you the power that I have inside of me, and I just gave it away. So one of the things that I taught myself is to never, ever give anyone my power. My power is mine. I've worked on my power, and no one can take it. Listen, I've had so many things happen in my life since the age of 18. No one's ever taken my power since, and they never will, because you can say and do anything to me. That's
And
my
this is the powerful thing in here too, the way you're saying it. It is hard for people to take your power. What is much easier is when you give your power away. And when you react, you give it away, and
Oh,
you
yeah.
give it to the other person. Or when you become a victim, you give it away.
Mm.
And so all these things is like, oh my God, it's not even about other people trying to take something from me, but it's for me to give permission. And it's such a powerful thing. It goes back into the old stories where, like I'm thinking of the vampire stories or something, like where the vampire cannot do anything unless you invite them into your life, or you invite those negative energies in. You give permission. This is not something coming from the outside to get you.
Right.
We all need to be reminded that the reason these, and let's call them negative energies for lack of a better word, come into our lives is because we give them permission, maybe not consciously, but subconsciously, and invite them in.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is why I love doing martial arts, because I love to fight, but in a friendly way, right? So when I have to engage with somebody, For example, I was a bouncer for 5 years in New York. You can only imagine how many times people try to take my head off.
Oh, yeah.
And I was the only bouncer in 5 years that the police never came looking for, because I never hit one patron, ever. They would come at me, swing. I mean, we had knives, chains, all different kinds of things, that some gang breakout. I never hit one person. And the reason I account is because I knew how to move. The second was that I showed compassion, because, hey, if they knew me personally, they wouldn't attack me. They were attacking the person, whoever was in front of them.
Of
And
course.
so I would turn them around, whisper in their ear as I'm holding them, and say, you want to go to jail or you want to go home? And they're probably like, who is this crazy guy who I couldn't hit, who I try to kill? And meanwhile, he's being compassionate to me. So I taught myself that compassion is truly rooted in the way we feel about ourselves first. Because if we have anger in ourselves, we can't show compassion for someone else, right?
Yeah, very much.
Yeah. When you're doing and practicing your yoga, what or how do you even start? Do you have, and I'm saying this only because I know some people who may be listening don't necessarily do yoga yet, right? Because we want them all to do yoga. Where is it important that we start at a certain time? Do we have to do it for a certain duration? Do we have to prepare to do yoga? So guide us a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah. I mean, my first answer, which came to my mind as you were saying these things, is none of it is important. But at the same time, all of it is important. And so it's an interesting combination, because I use yoga and meditation as tools. It's the same like you knew from your work at the wood shop, is you can scrape around on a piece of wood with some simple, scratchy piece of metal, or you can have that really high quality tool which allows you to cut very precisely and very cleanly. Choice is yours. You can also just use your fingernail and scrap on it. But ultimately, you want to work on that piece of wood, and you have that vision, and you want it to come out as this beautiful piece of art or this piece of furniture. And you make your choices. What tools do you want to use? Do you want to use those tools which are really sharp and really precise and really effective? They're available. Kundalini Yoga is one of them. Qigong is one of them. Martial arts is one of them. Going running every day is one of them. Or do you want to just scrape with your fingernail and sit on the couch and be like, yeah, I don't know why it's not working. I've been thinking about it for 2 hours today and nothing has happened. Right? So that's how it works in the yoga. I remind myself every day that my meditation practice is a tool. I remind myself every day that the way I eat, that the way I sleep, that the way I exercise are tools for me to create an effect which I want to create in my life. So if I want to be calm and balanced, guess what? If I sleep better, I'm more calm and balanced. If I want to be more in my center and more in touch with my intuition, guess what? If I meditate for half an hour a day, I'm more intuitive than if I'm not. It's really not rocket science.
No, not at all. Not at all. So is there a time in the day that it's better to do yoga, or is it when you are ready?
My favorite time is the morning. And again, it's another tool. It works well. I wake up before my family wakes up, and then I have time to get ready. I have time to take my cold shower. I can take care of myself in that way. And then I sit at 5:30, 6 a.m., and I have this quiet time, and there's nothing else happening. And no one expects me to get back on WhatsApp or respond to emails. And so I'm just present, and that's my time. And so it works really well to have that time.
Yeah,
But any time
absolutely.
works, and you can do it at 4 in the
Absolutely.
afternoon if that's easier for you.
Right, right. So a lot of yoga teachers either teach in the morning, they may do an afternoon teaching, but a lot, because people are working, they'll teach at night. Now, somebody who is teaching, let's say those 3 times during the day, do they ever, I know because I teach at all times, but do they ever get tired of that teaching? Or is it because it's so calming, so relaxing, so into themselves that now they can actually expand that energy to give it to other people, that it's a blessing? I mean, that's how I see it. I'm just asking you.
Oh, it's a fine line, because if you teach truly, truly to serve and to give back and to uplift others, I mean, look at the example of Mother Teresa. She was running around when she was 80 for 14 hours a day, not stopping for a minute, because for her it was just giving, giving, giving. And so there was this abundant energy.
Mm.
If you have a job at a yoga studio and you need to show up a certain time, and otherwise you don't get paid, and this whole external worldly aspect comes in, I think it can get tiring, like, because it's easy to lose connection with why you truly do it when it needs to become the source of your primary source of income, where you need to pay rent with, you need to buy food, you need to have money to send your kids to school. And if you don't go and show up to teach, then you don't get that. That can become draining.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. Somebody several times they've asked me, "Aren't you tired of teaching? Are, don't you wish you didn't have to teach?" I'm like, "Well, what else would I do?" I said, "Plus, I don't think I have a job. So when I grow up, I'll get a job. But right now, I love, like yesterday, I met a kid who's autistic, and I have several clients of mine who are autistic. This particular kid came in wearing the big headphones because he's sensitive to sound. And the mom brought him in, and I said, I don't work with anybody unless I meet them first. I don't take your money, none of that. So and then we're going to go right after this one. As soon as the kid came in, he sat down on my couches, and then I went and talked to him. He wouldn't talk to me. He wouldn't look at me. So finally his mother said, look at him. So he kind of looked at me, and I started playing with him, messing around. And immediately he started to connect with me.
Mm-hmm.
And then that brought so much joy that I can get him to do things. And within a few minutes, I had him doing so many different things. His mom was like, oh my God, he's never done anything with anybody. Is it okay if I take a video? I said,
That's amazing.
Of course you can. But for me, it was that connecting with him, because when I work with anybody who is autistic, they have a voice. We're not hearing it. So for me, I'm always listening to them. So
Yeah, amazing. I love that.
yeah. So, and I know you touch people in so many different ways, and now we all know we can find you on TikTok, which is
Yeah,
really exciting. So easy
totally.
way
And
to
reach
connect.
out to me. I mean, you can also obviously find me on my website. You can connect with me
What is
through
your website?
Instagram.
What is
I'm
your
on coachingnow.info.
coachingnow.info? Very good.
Yeah, it's easy enough to find. And
Angel,
yeah,
thank you for joining us as well. We all have to leave. We have such busy days. But I got to tell you, Amrit, I want to stay connected to you, my friend,
yeah,
because I know that you have so much more to give. I love to have you on some of my other shows as well. And let's keep this connection open,
let's
and
do
keep
it. Yeah.
inspiring, you know?
Yeah, it was such a blessing to be on with you.
I
Thank you.
appreciate you. Thank you, my friend. Have an amazing and respectful and delightful day. Take care.
Thank you.
All right.